Wonderful job, wonderful job. We heard some great discussions, and now we're here to present the action items and the summary of our group discussions. So for those of you who are here, you're going to get the privilege of having these emailed to you, but you need to be able to make your own personal notes so that we can fine-tune this information, because you need to mark your calendar on Thursday, July 25th. We're going to come back here for the first of 5 sessions that are specifically for the strategic planning phase. So July 25th will be the first strategic planning meeting, and we're going to begin with the information that we received from these action items today. So everybody understand that? So if you want to jot that date down, make sure you make a note of that, invite your colleagues. That meeting is open to all of the community so that we can begin the strategic planning phase. And so after the first 2 meetings, we will have the action item inputs and revision. Meetings 3 and 4, we will have the draft created, and meeting 5, we will present the final draft of the strategic plan. Okay? All right, so group 1, everybody say group 1.
Group 1.
Group 1's topic was education and skills development, and their leader was Mr. Stephen Del Sol. And so he's going to talk through the action items and summarize their group discussion. And so, Dr. Fuller is here as well. So let's give them both hands as they come forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stephen Paul Del Sol. We were very sort of democratic as we are in the United States. So lots of people will do the presentation. Education and skills, we concentrated on Martin Luther King's second category about character, and therefore we produced a paper, bullet points of the major skills, character skills. So people have a copy of it and we discussed it, but then people will have their own thing to say. All I want to use my particular bit really is to say this, coming from outside. I've been here for 10 years, and I find that the system is ripe for change if you have the right information and you target your focus on the right place. And secondly, economically speaking, if all the international companies in Greenville in particular want to withdraw, the economy will collapse. And in a situation of economic patriotism, that could happen, because Europe is the situation in Europe is very poor. France, Germany, they need jobs there. So it's not about being able to withdraw, government is sending back to Germany, Chile back to France. So we really have some long-term planning to do globally about how, as a community, we are going to economically empower ourselves. It's a big project. So that's what really the point I really want to make. And I just want to turn it now over to Dr. Caroline. Dr. Fuller, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Patricia Fuller, and I have to tell you, this is my first time attending this program. I met some very nice and very important people today, and it was a great experience. We focus mostly on our youth. Our framework in our discussion was mostly about youth. And for our first action plan, we talked about whether in fact there were enough systems in place to provide our youth with assistance that they may need to develop their skills. We talked about some of those systems. Some we thought were duplicative, and thought maybe we could best benefit by somehow bringing those organizations into one collective body to provide those assistance. Mr. Blankenship, who is with the South Carolina Works, talked a lot about what their organization does along those lines. And so I'm going to ask him to stand up and speak to us about that, just to give you a little more insight about that particular area.
As it relates to the development systems, what I was referring to is the fact that we need to create systems that are not duplicated, but systems that are based on interaction amongst organizations organizations, going from K-12 through employment. And within that system, you will address the gaps that exist in our community. Whether it's group-related, whether it's adult-related, whether it's technical-related, occupation-related, but also in that, you also will capture the gaps that exist for our veterans, the gaps that exist for our young people, and our adults who have a criminal record or have some connection to the penal system. And what I see happening is, I see a lot of organizations, the churches and other groups are putting on activities where you really time the organizations that are being paid to do those things. One, it helps you budgetarily, but also helps you get in front of the right people that can best address whatever gap that you have. Because you have a lot of people that work in a system that make decisions behind a desk, so you play a vital role because you bring it from the perspective of boots on the ground. But boots on the ground necessarily doesn't have the resources it needs to be heard. So when you start talking about getting business ministry, getting higher education community, they're not going to look for that information to come from there. They're looking for information to come from those who are employed. So I'm talking about systems that are like state, federal, who have a county, a city, that have the resources, that want to collaborate with you. Because if you create that system, you already address all the gaps you possibly can that exist in the community.
Thank you. Our next point was information sharing. Empowering people so they have the information that they need to get the resources that they may need. And I'm going to ask Charlotte Watts, who is with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, to come up and talk about our discussion that we had along the lines of individuals who may not be able to find employment because of their arrest and conviction record.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm an investigator with the EOC, and this board has asked me to explain one of the laws that we enforce is under Title VII, which says you cannot be discriminated against based on your race. Now, we have statistics that African Americans and our Hispanics are arrested, convicted, and very proportionate on the law. So, the EEOC doesn't enforce conviction records, arrest records per se, but since we have statistics that show that Black individuals as a group can be treated differently less favorably based on their race, the commission can enforce a guidance on that. If the company has a policy, and even though it's applied evenly, it's made disproportionately. We count a group of individuals, in this case based on race. We recently had a case that's come to court, it's being governed, and it was because of a policy violation, as I just explained. There are a group of individuals, class violations, who were denied employment based on race.
One of the other factors that we talked about in this group is the fact that there are many people who may be discriminated against on their job and don't know where to go. They don't know what the EEOC is. They don't know that we are located right here in Greenville County. They don't know what their rights are, what their responsibilities are on the job. So, information is power, and empowering people with that information can make a great difference in their development. Our last action was monitoring. Once we get these systems in place and we empower people with information, how do we go about monitoring to ensure that individuals keep on track and get the goals, or reach the goals that they want to reach in life? And I will ask Mr. Nixon to come forward and talk a little bit about our discussion today. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, sorry, can you check the mic?
is on. I just need to hold it close. Okay, I'm sorry. All right. You need us to repeat anything? That's a question I want to switch mine.
Testing 1, 2. Can you hear this? Testing 1. Testing 1, 2.
Okay. Ms.
Testing, 1, 2. Testing. Hey, all right, there we go. We were talking about monitoring, which is kind of like another way of saying accountability and holding people accountable through the system, the interconnected systems that we were there with. All right. And talking about having accountability throughout the interconnected systems that should be created. This is the educational experience of young men of color. It's a review of research pathways and progress. It's from 2011. And one of the things in here, one of the statistics I was looking for a little while ago, was that over 70% of Asian Americans in the United States are able to go through K through 12 on up through a university and obtain a college degree, either a 2-year or 4-year or professional degree. Whereas right now, I believe that the percentage of African American males that are able to attain at least an associate degree is 13%. And one of the major differences that they see between African American males and Asian American is the family structure and the accountability that's allowed. Because when you see the way that their families and the teachers and the whole system is set up, everyone's checking on their progress and pushing them and not allowing their best to be their best. And so the student, well actually the teachers and the administrators need to have that right to be able to press and expect more from the kids. We have to hope that the families are able to be there, and then places like this that we're in, the churches, the ministries, being able to support the families and give them what they need and give the mentors what they need.
Thank you.
Let's give group 1 a hand. Group 2, any questions, comments?
I just want to, because that's very important. My daughter, I have 2 daughters, one is living in New York on this today, but she was talking to me today, and to give you an example, she lives in an area in New York that is Asian American, and that's very important for the last point. And my little grandson is 6 years old, and he goes to summer school. And from 8:30 until 5 o'clock is pure academics. Pure academics. Parents are paying big money in summer school for the kids, and at 5 o'clock they play. And that's throughout the summer. And if you look at China or whatever, that's the Chinese sort of attitude towards learning. Academics throughout. So it's no wonder they end up with 70%, because practice makes perfect.
Let's give group 1 a hand. Thank you so much. Great job. Group 2, Paula.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Our group was on substance abuse and prevention. My group included Pat Parker, who's from Triune, Miko Gary, yes, I want to make sure I had your last name correct, who is from City Hall, and we have Brian Williams from Brown Mackey, and Mark Curitan, who is an ex-offender and job seeker, so he can certainly speak to the issue at hand. Since this is a forum on black male unemployment, I thought it would be prudent to have a black male from our group speak. So I am going to introduce Ryan Williams, who will come up and will talk about the points of action that we brought up.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
We were talking about substance abuse and the overall, I guess, effect that it has on the black male community. 80% of the incarcerations, primarily in South Carolina, we relate to substance abuse. So as you can see with that huge number, we need to kind of figure out how can we deter this. So our 3 main points that we came up with, which is kind of funny that Group 1 talked about accountability, because that was our first point that we came up with. One of the biggest hindrance is the fact that a lot of times the people who are abusing these substances don't take accountability. They like to point the finger, kind of say. So what we decided was that's one of the main things that they need to address first, or that needs to be addressed first. Taking on the accountability of the fact that this is a problem and it can actually hurt you in the future. Because once you get that stigma attached to you, it can follow you for the rest of your life. Our second point that we came up with was focus, motivation, with mentorship kind of being the vehicle that kind of drives that. And what we mean by that, with the focus and motivation, we want individuals to get into a point to where they're inspired to do more. They set goals in life, and what they do is they work towards attaining those goals. Not necessarily looking at the end of the road, but the small pieces that they can do to get to those points. One of the things when we involve in the mentors is the mentors need to understand what it's like and what it's about when you're dealing with someone pertaining to substance abuse. A lot of times we get into the habit to where we want to fix that individual. And it's not our job to fix that individual. It's our job to pretty much hold their hand and help them get to that point. And we need to understand that there are going to be certain things that's going to happen with them to where maybe they're going to have a relapse. What do we do when they have that relapse? Do we jump in and we try to be superheroes to save the day? Or do we help them understand what they need to do to get to that point of actually reaching their goals and their destination? And then finally, our third point is let the individual define their own goal. Don't be that person in their life to where you tell them you need to do this, you need to do that. Let them define their own goal by asking questions, what, when, who, but never why. We never want to put that negative stigma on, okay, you want to accomplish this, but put it in the back of their mind, okay, maybe this isn't right, because now I'm second guessing and questioning everything that I do. So as our group as a whole, it was a collective thought, it was very engaging, telling conversation, but I feel like us as an individual, well, as a group, it's not a lot of us in here today, but if each one of us can take what we learned today and reach out to just one person, maybe that one person can reach out to someone else, and we can kind of go like that. Thank you all.
This is also time for question and answer for the group as well.
Thank you. I just basically want to add to that, when you look at accountability, which we thought was really premier, because you really have to take ownership for 2 positions. Good decisions, good stuff. Bad decisions, bad stuff. It's very elementary. And with that, you need to understand that you don't need to be held hostage to your history. If you made those bad decisions and you're in a bad place, because what's important is what you're going to do from today on. You do not have to be stuck in coulda, woulda, shouldas. The second thing is that when we talked about, what was the second thing, I'm sorry? When we talked about focus and motivation, we felt that that's not intrinsic to everybody. Some of us are go-getters. We're go-getters in the sense that when you show me, I'm gone. Some of us, you don't have to show me. I'm going to find it. But when we're reaching back for that person that's stuck in substance abuse, that's stuck in my criminal history won't let me move forward, I can't get a job. If their scope is this narrow, and you're talking about stuff that's outside their peripheral vision, then you've got to break down what you're saying to the point where it fits in their scope so that they can then believe it's achievable, which takes work on your part. It may not be you talking to that go-getter. So now you have to literally reframe your speech and how you motivate a person. The third thing is in terms of those questions, we feel that those questions bring you back to accountability. If I'm not defining for you how to get clean, if I'm not defining for you how to get a job, I'm asking you, what are you interested in? I'm asking you, what are you feeling right now? I'm asking you, what do you want to do? It may not look like I think it needs to look, but if you've defined it, you've taken accountability for it, it's now a plan that you're motivated to follow. So we think that that's a simple kind of action-orientated plan that the layperson can do for people that you know that are on substance abuse or using substances. And in terms of how this all relates to unemployment with substance abuse, we want you to know that substance use leads to substance abuse, which leads to substance addiction, which usually leads to criminal activity. Once you have the criminal activity, you now have a criminal record, which now follows you while you're trying to get a job. So.
Any questions for Group 2?
One question, if y'all, both of y'all too, because I think sometimes in the community there's some things that people just will ask. And they often ask questions like, well, what causes substance abuse? So could you maybe deal with how a person really gets caught up in this so that...
Choices.
Just choices?
Choices.
Okay.
There are studies that say alcoholism is genetic. There are studies that say drug abuse is genetic. It's choices. My father was an alcoholic. His father before him was an alcoholic. I got uncles that are alcoholic. Look, I don't go past 2 drinks because it may be genetic. And if it is, that's my cutoff. That's my plan. That's my choice. Now I have relatives who've made another choice. They don't drink at all. So again, it's choices. You know, I don't believe that genetics predetermine what you do. It is so elementary. Good choices, good stuff. Bad choices, bad stuff. The good news is when you make a bad choice, you can make a good one after that.
Can I just add to this that appearance is not reality. And appearance is like an iceberg. What you see over there is not to the thing that is. I'm a biologist, and more research is coming out about genetics basis, because in the middle of the brain is this limbic system, your pleasure center. And you're finding that the smell, for some people just the smell of drugs will trigger a habit. So if you're in the environment where people are smoking, it's going to trigger that drive, that urge. So the environment can determine your psychology, your thinking process, determine your physiology, how you feel about yourself. You know, I say this again because I have a young man, he's supposed to be here. He's got 3 kids, boys. And the court gave him custody of the boys, the small kids. But the mother was pumped up with drugs. They were born drug babies. And that's the reality of so many of our kids. That's a physiological fact. It's not a choice they make because they didn't ask to be born. Someone had their fun and they're born. So they didn't create that choice. It's a physical fact. So I think you know, we have certain things that are genetically caused, physiologically caused, socially caused, and choices, because we make the choice. It's a mental act. And the extent to which the actual environment generates and perpetuates those particular things. Because I'm from London. When I step out in London, I'm a different person when I step in South Carolina. The context determines the text.
Let me just ask Mark, Mr. Puritan, if you would come up here. I'm going to ask, this is, as I said, an ex-offender and job seeker. I'm going to ask him to speak on environment. I'm going to ask him to speak on what he's had to do as a ex-drug user, as a person who was criminal-minded, as a person who now wants to do something different. What steps have you taken to insulate yourself? Talk about the environment and how you know one thing leads to another.
Yeah, I was on, I'm here. Yes. Well, I agree with the choices. Choices that led me to somewhere that I didn't want to go. I've been out for 40 days after today. I did a total of 8 years, day to day. Now, I'm not going to get into the crime because the crime is really not important. But if you have somebody out there that's involved that's doing something wrong, let them know that how important life is to them. Show them that you care, because once they get back there, they caught up, they're gone, they swallow them over. It's things that y'all can possibly imagine because y'all in society that goes on while they're incarcerated that will actually totally destroy their brain. And then when they come out here, back into society, not to adapt, they still caught up. So I'm gonna be honest with you, when I came home and somebody put a tablet in my hand and it turned around, I dropped it. Like, wow, it was moving. I didn't know what to do. Sometimes I'm out, I see people, I'm still looking around, like I'm in prison, on guard. It's something that I'm getting out of. But to the point of the environment, we have to continuously adapt to it because we come home. But with the job aspect of the whole thing, I have a friend. And people tend to make excuses saying that they're in prison, they get out, the job is hard to find. I'm actually telling you that's a lie. Jobs are not hard to find. The main problem is they don't apply themselves. A lot of people do not apply themselves. They come home, they fall right back into the same thing. They already planned that way before they came home. Because they sat back there and didn't do nothing. They sat back there and continuously did the same thing they were doing on the streets. Because everything that's going on the streets is still going on back there. Drugs, alcohol, murder, robbing, killing is all going on back there. I'm here to actually tell you. I've been stabbed twice. I went through a lot of other things that were still going on the streets. Now, they failed to get education. Education is free back then. I mean, $50 out here for a GED. Work keys, free back there. It's $20, $30 back out here. I got a silver work keys. I got a GED a week before I left. Now, I'm still looking for a job, but I get up every day at 8 o'clock to 4 o'clock. I'm trying to find a job. It's like I'm looking for a job, but I still got a job. My job is to find a job. So I'm 8 hours a day. Now I have a friend that got out a month before I got out. He got out, it was May the 1st. He found a job May the 3rd. Wow. He's back, he's gone, he's back in the streets. Yes, because he got a job. He got the job was paying $10.95 an hour, almost $11. All he was doing was holding a sign in front of a construction site and moving bricks. 2 days out, he got the job, he started working, started seeing his kids, staying with his baby mama, doing his regular thing. He was going to work every day. Got a taste of the weed by choice. He called me, talked to me. I said, okay, you still working? You still doing good? Yeah, man, continue to work, man. I'm trying to find a job. See, can you holler at some people to help me get a job as well? Where you working at? I got you. He sent me to the proper steps. So I said, I want to fill the application out online, send my email in. He's still working, but he called me one day, he was like, man, what you doing? I said, I'm trying to find a job. He was like, oh, well, you want to hang out? I said, I probably can talk to you for a couple minutes. We talked, he was saying, smoking weed in front of me. I was like, okay, you can stand back for a while. I said, why you not at work? He said, man, I told him my probation officer had to do community service. The first key to the relapse, excuse me. He just shot me straight in the excuse. Man, I told the probation officer, I got community service. Man, you don't see your probation officer but once a month. So now I'm seeing him, like, okay, you want to go back to the same thing you've been doing? Nah, I'm not gonna do that. But you just did. You smoked that blunt, knowing you got to take a drug test. See, this is the thing though with me. He sits there and talk about all this in prison, but you came out and did the wrong opposite. So he eventually kept smoking and smoking and smoking. The weed kept making him lazy and lazy and lazy. Tired and tired and tired. Because you don't tell him what else you're doing. Going to the clubs, drinking now, partying, doing what you do. And eventually they told him, with the tired of excuses, you fired. Wow. So I haven't talked to him then, so he finally called me like I told him about 2 weeks ago. what you doing? Where you at? I said, I'm at home. He said, you want to come out and hang out with me? I said, what you doing? Oh, I'm back. I'm trapping. Trapping means he back at the block. He selling crack for some people. He back to it. I said, well, my phone going dead. I'm going to call you back. I had a full battery, and I told him that. For him to understand that just because you do it, that don't mean I'm going to hang out with you to do it.
That's it.
If I hang out with you, if I'm around you, then I'm going to relapse with you. I can still hang out with you and not do it, but it's by choice that if I'm still hanging out with you, I'm a part of what you're doing. And eventually it'll rub off on me. And I'm not going to do it. And I got plenty of friends that don't call me, do you want to do this, do you want to do that? I don't even go outside about it. They call me to go out to the club, to drink, do all that, but no. You're not going to do it. Because I have learned that it's more to life than doing that. It's more to the streets than doing that. You know, I can hang out and chill with you and do all this and that, but who gonna take care of me? I heard a quote, like I told them, nothing is easy, but who wants nothing?
Yes, sir.
Live and in person. You heard it. Next time you hear somebody say, I got a criminal record, I can't do it, it's not there for me, tell them you went someplace and you heard. I think you're lying.
Let's give him some more. This is information that the community needs to hear. We thank you for sharing. And make sure you get Jay's talk when you leave. Jay, raise your hand with SC Works. And we'll make sure that we do our best to make sure you succeed. Let's give him another hand. Group 3, the topic was soft skills development. Mr. Sullivan Baker is going to come present for Group 3. Let's give him a hand as they come.
Group 3 comprised Renee Fisher, Dr. Kim Smalls, Dr. Ronald Barton, Jean Vernon, and Janet Wolf. And our topic was soft skill development. So the first thing we tried to do was define soft skills. Pretty much came up with the basics, interviewing skills, how do you dress when you go, in essence, professionalism, being reliable, accountable, showing up on time, that type of thing. The discussion then went into things have changed a bit from the traditional interview and the way you apply. Rarely do you have paper applications now. Everything is on computer. Also, interviews, some interviews now are done by peers or a team of peers. And so the traditional one-on-one question answer doesn't always apply to every job. And so a part of the discussion was adapting to those changes. And in doing that, the first thing we talked about, or the first action step, was we talked about how certain agencies have training, interview skills, and that type of thing. The Urban League, Share, and some others. But they're pockets. So in order to try to reach the broad community, we thought approaching churches and asking if they could have a job interview ministry or job training ministry where they can deal with their body. And understanding that not every church would do it, nonprofit agencies or others could identify particular churches in the region and ask if they could do some outreach there. So trying to reach and train and have one-on-one classes, or not one-on-one, but group classes with those who need it, to expose them to the changing way you interview for a job and try to get a job. The second was try to establish corporate partnerships. A part of our discussion was how do you dress for a job depending on what type of job it is. Do you wear a suit and tie if you're going to work in a plant? Do you wear heels if they're going to take you on a tour of the floor? And so, in addition to finding out what type of attire you need to wear, kind of observe and see what they wear, or even call and ask. But secondly, partner with corporations to see if they can donate old clothes. At Brown Mackey, there's an organization that, at least with the businesses in the building, ask their employees if they would donate some of their old suits, old dresses, old clothes for others to partake of. The third one is, well, the discussion then went to even in doing those things, we sometimes, I call it get pushed back in terms of, I'm an adult, you don't have to tell me how to speak, you don't have to tell me how to dress, I know what I'm doing. So, to the extent that's going to be a challenge that we're ready to face, and part of it is starting with middle school and teens to kind of expose them to what it takes now. So, talk about possibly either going into the schools or the summer camps or the vacation Bible schools and deal with those teens or 12, 13, 14-year-olds now about how do you dress professionally? How do you talk to someone you may be interviewing, or an elder, or respect, or character, and those types of things. And then possibly for 15-year-olds, attempt to get an externship or shadowing program so they can kind of go into these workplaces and know from seeing what to expect and how to conduct themselves. We had another discussion, but we didn't really put it down as one of our objectives, but the thought of, in addition to having these trainings, would it be possible to tie the requirement of attending these trainings to some type of benefit somebody may get? For example, if you receive unemployment benefits, you're required to apply for X amount of jobs in a particular amount of time. So hopefully these positive type trainings can be a requirement of receiving some benefit to ensure that people go, whether they believe they need it or not. So that was our group, and that's everything. Anything I can get on this? No. All right. Good. Any questions?
Any questions for group 3?
Thanks, sir.
Let's give them a hand.
For group 3, I've got a list of the soft skills, and I've done some research on them. So anyone who wants, it's a good in-service training for, you don't just have to photocopy it and then go through it. So you can.
You have one to give, or?
It's their copies.
Oh.
Yeah, and whoever, it's right there. So
Okay.
just
This is a package?
No, that's
okay.
yeah.
I take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So anyone wants.
I'll have one.
Mr. Jay Blankenship is here, and is there any comments or observations that you can make from an employment professional perspective on soft skills and the problem that you're seeing in that particular area?
Stop still.
The most major issue that you're seeing.
Everyone is sitting on the same page, and that's what we talk about in our group. It's just so much duplication, but we all headed down the same path. But unfortunately, what happens is it takes more than that 15-minute commitment. It's longer than that. When you start talking about particularly dealing with young people or someone that may have a criminal barrier or background, it's more than a 15-minute sit down talking to that person. Because you got to really be able to be that type of individual that's going to listen to what they have to say. Then you have to be able to identify those individuals that are going to go the extra mile to help that person, or you're just going to put them right back in the same system that they came out of. Tony and I had a conversation, and one reason why I came today was the conversation that we had about youth. And I said, well, we got a youth conference, 16 to 24-year-olds, about 300 plus right down the street. Can you give some ties? We had men in that conference that sat there and tied ties for those young men, so that when they came from Monday to Wednesday, when they went in front of those 40 employers, they had on a shirt and tie. They were dressed appropriately. And these employers actually hired those individuals. So it's one of the things, I'm from North Charleston, I tell people all the time, I ain't want to do a lot of talking. It's about, let's get it done. Let's don't make no excuses. If you're going to avail yourself to help that person, then you avail yourself 24 hours a day, whatever the cost may be. Because at the end of the day, in order for us to be successful in the state of South Carolina, we got a lot of negatives. Because Tony keeps saying SC Works Greenville, but also represent the state of South Carolina, part of legislation. And I can honestly tell you that the path that we're going down from K through employment, as well as our adults, the route that we're going, your BMWs, your Michelin's, and all these others, suppliers and companies not going to come here because one, our education level is too low, our skill training is not where it needs to be, so it's beyond soft skills. When we send out information to our church groups and other organizations, it's not for the minister to have to just sit on the desk. It's to make sure that you share with your congregation so that they know where the resources are available. SC Works is right down the street. Every person that has received unemployment insurance has to come to our office to register in that system. You see the things that the governor is doing? There's no more hands out, just cutting food stamps and all those other things. There's reasons for that. But we get individuals that come in, you know, they may not be properly prepared, but at the same time, us being, I tell people in the office all the time, we are civil servants, which means we're there to serve the people first. Which means we're going to go out in the community, do whatever we need to do to make sure that the information that you need to be successful is there. And I will say, if you partner with the organizations that are out there doing these things, some of the organizations that Tony mentioned, we fund those organizations. Now we're cutting their funding because they're not doing the things they're supposed to be doing to help these people. And I can honestly tell you, I'm proud of what the brother said right there, man, because in most cases, it's about the excuse game. And we have programs in place where part of our initiative, we have to help those who have an offender, who are an offender. It's right down the street. But you'd be surprised how many people will actually come to our office when they have a record. They'll go ask little Johnny next door, little Johnny give you bad information. Now you caught up with the system again. Then you get the people that know how to help you. They don't give you the information that you really need. So Tony, what I'm going to do is, I will say that anything that you or this church wants to do, you can count us, SC Pathways and SC Works, as a partner. We will be there. I was just telling our committee, we just went up to Woodlawn High School, we're opening a satellite center. And we talked up here, you know, the GED for a lot of our citizens is going to be very cost prohibitive.
Yes.
So we're going to be working with the church community to get the churches to work with us to become GED testing centers.
Yes.
So we can find alternative ways to prepare GED. That's cost effective, but you have individuals there. We have HR professionals from SHRM that will work with individuals who have records and all of that, help you do resumes, cover letters, all of that. All you gotta do is ask. So Tony, what I'm gonna do also, I'm gonna make sure you get a resource guide, and then make sure that we connect this group to whoever needs to be connected, and we're there because we're committed to making sure that our citizens get the information they need. Because without the information, just run around in circles.
Let's give a praise. One comment before we move forward. Yes, sir.
I wanted to go back to the soft skills for a second. One other thing about the soft skills, for those of you who don't know, I just got hired as the Department Head for Biological Sciences at Greenville Technical College. About 55 direct reports, 4 different campuses, see about 3,000 students for our set of classes. And for the last 5 weeks, all I've done outside of teach a class and deal with budget is sit in my office and see students who came to me to complain about a bad grade. I have not had one, and 90% of them were students of color. I have not had one student who had a legitimate claim. And the reason for that is because of this. If you really want people to develop soft skills, please do not encourage character flaws. Do not accept them. Do not accept them. If they're late, they're late. If they're late, they're late. I know that. Thank you, Pastor. If they're late, they're late. If it's a lie, it's a lie. If you ask for 5 pages and they turn in 2.5, that's not 5 pages. Because what's beginning to happen now is the 2-year college, and for those of you who don't know, our 2-year college, all of our classes transfer. My students in my class right now, half of them are students from Furman, Clemson, and USC. We don't teach little classes. So those classes transfer. So they have to be able to hang with the big boys. Therefore, we hold students to that high of a caliber and that high accountability. So when they come into my class, they think that they're going to get the same thing that they've gotten through K through 12. No offense, you're not going to get that. Because I don't want to look up from a gurney one day and see you and you don't know what you're doing. So please, I tell students every time when they come to me, let's hear the story. And when it comes down to it, they slept in class, they texted in class, they didn't come to class. And I get a lot of phone calls from a lot of parents. And I talk to them face to face, eye to eye on the phone. And I've got a lot of disappointed parents of color right now because they've come to find out that they spent all that money on a student who they simply just didn't come to class. And what they don't know is I get to know their friends and I find out where they were. They were playing Xbox in the student center or they were smoking. All right? So please don't encourage those character flaws. If they're late, they're late.
Before we get to our closing remarks, let's give Mr. Moss the hands to lead this discussion. Group 4 transportation.
Black male unemployment. The black male has been employed. He has the education. He has the soft skills. He has passed the drug test. We've given him a class on prevention. He has the soft skills to the T. But he can't get to his job. We have developed 3 action plans, and we have a representative from GreenLink, Dwayne Atkinson, and he will make a presentation as far as our action plans to make sure that once they're hired, they can get to the job.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
First, I want to say honor to be here representing GreenLink, and we do believe in what the discussion has been, which is provide a service for the public, and hopefully this is just the beginning of a partnership. I'm new to GreenLink. I started in February. Before then, I was in Spartanburg for special needs. But now that I'm in GreenLink and didn't know the need for it, just knew it was a public service, didn't know that there was really an issue like that because I'm originally from North Carolina. But now that I'm here, I've developed a passion to find a solution to help with this problem. And the first one we talked about was extending hours. Right now we end at the last run at 6:30. And believe it or not, my director has already mentioned this. This is something that we're putting into place as we expand. We'll be starting going to Clemson. We have a Clemson run starting in August. And soon after that, the very next thing is going to be expanding hours, which right now we think we're trying to take it to 11, which will constitute more money. And we all know we have that money to run everything. And the fare box and the ticket sales really don't fund us. So we have to look at alternative motives to fund us. But that is definitely one thing that's in the works for the community, for that third shift, for those guys that get those third shift jobs that, need a ride to work. So that's one of the first thing we're looking at. The next thing is actually increasing frequency. Right now we run every hour. I try my best to crack the whip behind them drivers, make sure they're on time every hour for that reason, for a job reason, for, just appointments, everything. So we're going every hour. The next goal after expanding it on time is to go every 30 minutes, which will increase buses. Right now we're running 12, so that means we'll need 24, which means we'll need more drivers, which is more jobs. So if you know anybody with CDLs, definitely hiring in that area. So that'll definitely increase, like I said, more frequency. Because one thing happens, because I work in the dispatch booth a lot, when someone might miss a bus and they gotta wait a whole hour, now you're an hour late, for a job. So if we can get one there every 30 minutes, you might miss that one, and you might catch the next one. So that's another plan that we have in place. And Mr. Moss gave me some information. I'm not too familiar with this. One of it was talking about alternative transportation because, GreenLink, we will do our best to help, but we can't do it all. And we need other motives. And one he gave me was the Community Works, where they they start an account so that you can match funds to try to get a car.
It's the ITA program, and it's 3 to 1. For every $1 you save, they give you 3. So at the end of the year, you'll have $4,000 towards financing a new car. It's always super fun, but the entire ITA is cool. It's really well. And if you get into the other ITA, you can use it for housing, education, housing, or starting a new business.
So that's another alternative. And also with the Greenville Bike Share Program, you might have seen the stations with the bikes. I mean, I know, it's not the greatest, but it'll get you here to there where you rent a bike for a certain amount of time, you know, and that's another alternative for transportation. Say that again?
Help with our obesity rate.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. Oh yeah, that's my thing too. But I'm here for transportation, so. Okay, that are our basic, our 3 points. Any questions, concerns, wish list? Yes.
I have a consideration. I know way back in the past, they used to actually have a van service with Greenwood Transit Authority. And so for people that had appointments or maybe needed to go to work, they actually had a personalized van service where they would go and pick you up. Is that something that we might reinstate, or is that not the most cost-effective method now?
Well, right now we have GAP services, which is actually for the disabled and the elderly, that does door-to-door pickups, you know, for doctor's appointments or to take them to Walmart. We do have that. I'm not, like I said, I'm fairly new, so I'm not familiar with that. I saw your hand about to go up, so what you want to say?
To kind of address that, that is an open opportunity for somebody that has an opportunity for business. If you have that entrepreneurship spirit, that's an opportunity.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, and that's something we discussed up there, that's definitely an open market for even churches. You think, like Mr. Moss said, you know, they're running the bus on Wednesday and Friday, but Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday and Sunday, so Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, it's just sitting there. And that could be an opportunity to help, you know, shuttle those people to the jobs. Definitely, you know, and it could be through a church, or like I said, it could be a business somebody want to look into. Let me know, because I would love to be a part.
Back to that young lady's point, I'm from Portsmouth, Virginia, and I know that in the area that I am, there's like 7 cities. Most of the work there is government work, and the transit system there, they provide vans to people, let's say, that live on the work on the naval base.
Right.
They may live in Portsmouth, they drive to the naval base in Norfolk. And some of the employers will get together and pay the transit system for repair on the vans. And then the individuals who ride the van actually pay a fee to make sure that they have gas. And the driver themselves is someone who works for that company or works for the government.
Right.
So
yeah, and actually, CUI car, the Clemson campus over off of Woodruff, they did that. That's why we have a shuttle. They took that same idea and they're funding. They bought the shuttle. We use our drivers, and it goes from Haywood up to Woodruff back and forth, and picks up students. So that, if other businesses, you know, would like to get in that, because even the outside of the van, it has CUI car, you know, for promotion and all of that stuff. So it's an opportunity definitely out there. Anything else?
I hear that you expanded towards Clemson and on out. And you were saying that you had lived in Spottsville doing the same thing. I'm from an area in Greer. I don't know how you would do that. Greenwood City Bus comes to Taylor's.
I know.
Have it ever considered?
That's in the plans. And only reason why Clemson is moving so fast is because of the CUI car connection, and they want to connect those students, and see, they're the one with the money, and so they're the one making the move. You know, that would be ideal. I get hundreds of calls, people saying, "Do you go to Walmart in Greer?" You know, and I would love to take them myself. You know, I'm just that compassionate, but we turn by Taylor's and
stop at Taylor's.
Right, and that's something that I would definitely mention, but I know it's definitely in the conversation, because we're no longer GTA, but GTA is kind of like the governing body. If Mitchell were here, he'll let you know. But what they want to change it from GTA, they want to change it to like Upstate Transit Authority, so it'll cover more area and do that. And we're definitely in the growing business, and that's why I like being a part of this at this ground level, so that we can, you know, work together as we expand and take on those ideas. Anything at this?
How do I get specific information to like? Okay, let me tell you what I got.
Okay.
We're working with the young men at Greenville Tech. We got professional development. We got goodwill coming in. All that great, wonderful stuff. One of the top 10 complaints I get is I can't get to the campus.
Right.
So where do I need to start?
Well, right now, until we have a system that we're putting in place called Route Match, which is going to be where we already have the tablets on all the buses, and it's going to be, and you'll be able to log on and even track buses where they are real time eventually. But until then, I suggest you call dispatch where I'm at, and we'll answer any question. You know, if you say, I got a student that's here, need to get here, we'll sit on the phone with you, pull the map up and say, this is the bus, this is the transfer, and this is where they need to go. And that number is 467-5001. And that's the dispatch office for any question dealing with Greenwood Transit. You can call that number and somebody in there can help you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Atkinson? Let's give him a hand. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, so we have heard from each group. These are the 4 barriers, and I think we did a sufficient job of hearing from you. Any closing thoughts or comments before we hear from Mr. Ferguson and we have our dismissal? In my opinion, this has been the best session we've had yet, and give yourself a hand for being here. It's been the best because you were here, you were part of the community, you gave your feedback, and you are the source for change for not only Greenville, but also for the global community, as Minister Stephen pointed out.
I just wanted to say, in terms of this being about black male unemployment and the issues around ex-offenders, I just wanted to ask Mr. Talley if you had something that maybe you wanted to share in terms, since you came.
I just want to compliment Mark. I once was an ex-offender too, and just basically, man, what I'm about to say, you said. You know, I'm quite sure it probably was some more members that couldn't make it, but I went through it tough too, you know, with parole and probation. And by the grace of God, I done came through it. You know, never gave up. You know, one of the toughest things to expect is from a company or a business is the word no. You know, and I've heard someone spoke about the agencies. There's a lot of agencies will not even let you fill out an application, even with a criminal background. But, you know, I just stay persistent and consistent. And, you know, man, you just don't give up, man. And like someone said, you make a choice. And one of the most strongest points that was in my life was giving my spiritual time some to take over. And that's what moved me, man. So keep going, bro. And thank y'all for having me.
I wanted Dr. Fuller to comment on that, because one of the most important reasons I asked her to be here today is for them to enlighten us about someone coming out of prison, having a silver on work keys, having a GED, applying for a job, and specifically being excluded only because they have a prior conviction. So, Dr. Fuller.
All right. The laws that we enforce don't necessarily protect you from discrimination because you have an arrest or conviction record. The laws that we enforce, basically, you have to be alleging that this is happening to me because, for example, my race. Okay, we have statistics that show that, Ms. Watts spoke to this earlier, that blacks and Hispanics are convicted at a higher rate than their Caucasian counterpart for the same crimes. So we know that companies who have policies of automatic exclusion because of your arrest or conviction record have policies that adversely impact African Americans and Hispanics. So if you go to apply at a job and they won't allow you to make out the application because you tell them that you have an arrest or conviction record, then you need to come and see us. Now that doesn't mean that, you know, an investigation is going to result in a finding or violation in your case, but you don't know, and we don't know, unless you make it known to us.
Dr. Fuller, could you tell them where you are?
Yeah.
And where?
We're located downtown at 301 North Main Street, And a lot of people refer to that building as the old Daniels building. If you know Main Street where the Hyatt is, we're at the corner of North Main and College on the 14th floor in Suite 1402. At the top of that building is Windstream. They have a lot of offices in that building. I think drug enforcement is in that building, immigration, Secret Service is in that building on Main Street. So just make us aware of who those companies are. Let us know what your experiences are. We will explain to you the process for filing a charge, what it is that we will do, that whole investigative process is, and we go through the process and we find out what we find out. Another thing with our guidance, we're having a lot of outreach and education with companies to help them realize that this could be a form of discrimination, okay? Some proactive prevention. You know, stop with the automatic exclusion for arrest and conviction records. A lot of companies will ask on their application, have you been arrested? Okay, have you been convicted? I say to you, answer the question, be truthful. Because I can't tell you the number of times that people have filed complaints that we're in the process of investigating, and one of the problems that we find is that they lied on their application. Because that certainly is a reason to discharge you or a reason not to hire you. So be truthful.
Is the legality of them doing that based on South Carolina being a work at will state for them having not to hire ex-offenders?
Some employers use that as a reason not to. The reason as to why they do that. Some employers may say it's a safety reason. You know, they have a large work environment. They have a lot of employees. They say that people reoffend. People who are offenders quickly reoffend. And they worry about, some even state OSHA concerns. That based on OSHA laws, they're required to protect their employees. And if they have ex-offenders working there, then the likelihood of them offending at work or causing bodily harm to individuals is great.
From a structure standpoint, can you comment on how many access points or offices we have in the state of South Carolina that would duplicate your services?
You have one.
Just one in Greenville?
Just one. And that one's in Greenville.
And can you comment on how big your caseload is, like on a monthly or yearly basis, how many cases?
I can tell you this. Right now, I'm really understaffed. I have 5 investigators, and they're carrying right now over 100 cases each. And the workload will be even heavier than that. We do have a contract with the South Carolina Human Affairs Commission in Columbia. So this year I've had to transfer quite a number of my charges to them simply because we couldn't get to them fast enough. Also, I've had to in the past transfer charges against employers in South Carolina to Mississippi or Alabama. My district office is in Charlotte. Okay. But, you know, all that's political in terms of how much you get for a budget and whether you get a budget. So.
I have a question for you. I've noticed probably 2 people may not have a job in here that's unemployed. Okay, I think the next meeting should be focused on bringing people who don't have the jobs and need the skills to this meeting.
Right.
One of the main focus. I believe everyone in here probably is employed, but we need more people that's unemployed in here now. Right here now in these meetings. We just, you know, I look around and we're all looking for it.
Jay, I wanted you to comment on the youth conference you did for 17 and 23 years old, and how much marketing you did versus the number of participants you had. Can you comment on that so you can connect to what he's saying?
Yeah, we did a youth conference. It cost us roughly about $7,000 to put it on. And I will be honest to say that We've sent out literature to television, radio, churches, all your agencies that have youth programs. And what ended up happening, we were so disappointed in the agencies. We had our meeting, and they're large agencies, and they only had 6 participants. And I said, we're not going to play that game. So then we started reaching out to other organizations outside the traditional organizations, and that number started increasing. We started visiting the communities ourselves and picking up the phone ourselves and making phone calls. We started stopping young people in the malls that may have the appearance of having a criminal record or whatever, and we stopped them. And some of these young men, we gave them information. They was like, are you inviting me? I'm a gang member. I'm like, yeah, we invite you, because we serve that population. And I think a lot of it is, Tony, a lot of people don't know the population that we serve. Right. And it's from youth all the way through adult. And the services are there, and we probably haven't done a good job, and Dean and I talk about all the time, of letting people know who we are and what it is we do, and we're trying to make more of an effort of doing that. But when we send information now, it's got to be reciprocal, that we reciprocate. And I would say to the young man here and young man here, our work we do to try to help you get a job. We have individuals in our system, major employers that hire individuals with records. But I think the missing link is, a lot of people don't tell you this, is a lot of times it's that person who they trust picking up the phone and making a conversation on your behalf. Mm-hmm. Because that person then validates you. Mm-hmm. And as I said before, as servants, we got to validate the people that we work with. So a lot of times we will send an application to an employer and we stamp it, SC Works. They understand, because we got to understand too, the employees that we work with in a lot of cases, they're incentivized by hiring you because they get tax credits and things from us. That's right. So there's a lot of information Tony not aware of, but we're going to make more of a wholehearted effort to make sure that you're aware of these things that are going on, because it is important, as you said, it's important. The individuals who need the help should be here.
Right here.
And what we find in most cases is they don't know how, or we haven't broken it down on their level to where they understand it, and we're talking here when we should be talking there. So we're going to do a better job of doing that.
Right. And to me to comment personally on what I believe is the strongest connection to closing that gap, is gentlemen like Mr. Curitan and this gentleman here, spreading the word. They are the best spokesmen and spokespersons for this issue, because if I eat at a bad restaurant and I tell you to eat there, then that's a shame on me. But if I come out of prison or come out of a bad situation, I find a job within 2 days or 2 months, and my life starts to make positive changes. If the changes are positive, I'm going to talk about them to those who have been affected by the same issue. And so that's why I believe that them sharing the message, them getting the word out is really going to be the key. Us inviting people to the forum and marketing, we use Greenville News, we use 107.3 Jams, we use our upstatest.info, we email the churches, community organizations, in every forum we prepare for. But the best way to get the word out is through organizations like Reflight and Unshackle Me, that can really help people understand that there's a better life coming out of prison. There's a better life coming out of prison. So I appreciate you sharing that. You gentlemen here being here today is a big part of what we're doing. Anyone else? Anyone else? Mr. Leo.